All right, we are live with the man, Mr. Joe Black, Coach Joe Black of Prototype Training System. Joe, thanks so much for jumping on today and being part of the community conversation, man.
Of course, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. So obviously, it's a little bit different than directly talking with like our members and like about like journey. But what the first question I got for you, dude, is like, what was like the big reason, or how did you kind of get into like the fitness industry? Because your journey is pretty unique, and I'm glad that I could be like a a part of it. And I'd love for everyone else that might not know like much about you to kind of learn a little bit about how you got involved in coaching and then kind of got down the path of getting into weightlifting, because that's what your true passion is now.
Yeah, man, it started, I mean, like I've always been pretty active, played sports my whole life, up through high school and then, intramurals and stuff in college. But then after college, there's kind of this period where, it's like, what do you do now? And I started, going to the gym, doing, the typical like bro workout, barely working on my legs, all upper body. And you just get sick of that. It was like repetitive. I had no idea what I was doing. Um, and then I was like, oh, I'm going to try these Tough Mudders. I started hearing about them and somebody got me to do one and I did a couple of those and I was like, yeah, this is like good and stuff. But I had run in high school and I was done with like sort of endurance distance stuff. And somebody kept saying like CrossFit. I kept hearing this CrossFit and I'm like, all right, what is this? So I ended up going to CrossFit in Marlboro, and I think it was in, this is like 2011. And I was like instantly hooked. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like it was just different. It was fun. I felt like athletic. I was like, this is really, really cool. And so from there, I would say like 2012, I got my level one. Because I was like, I just want to learn more about CrossFit. And then probably, sometime in 2012, definitely 2013, I started getting a little bit more into weightlifting. There was this guy right in at the time, he was coaching. He just had this like theory, like this is like Matt Fraser's kind of coming up, and he's talking about how weightlifters make really good CrossFitters. So I was like, oh, I got to get better at weightlifting if I want to be better at CrossFit. And then I just sort of started to like weightlifting a lot more, and just the technical aspect of it, and just the challenge of it. So I started getting into that a little bit more. I started training with a coach in like 2015. I was like doing my own thing again. Not really, I didn't really know what I was doing. But then 2015, I got a coach. That really helped a ton. It really accelerated my growth. And, all the while I'm working at a desk job. I had been doing digital marketing for close to 10 years. And it was just something I fell into after school. And so it really wasn't a passion of mine. And I just found myself being unable to like go to a job interview and say, yeah, I want to like work for your company, because I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something else. And I was like, you know what? Like eventually I got two jobs in a row. They're absolutely terrible. And it was like a sign. It was like, you have to leave this industry and just figure it out. So I want to say that shortly after I did that, I might have reached out to you at that time, because I think Katie, my wife Katie, had said, there something about like a coaches program that they had. And I was like, oh, I got to talk to Mike. Meanwhile, I'm working construction with my buddy, doing carpentry and whatever else he needed help with. And then I started in on the program at Prototype. And so I started doing coaching CrossFit, and all along I was like, I want to create a weightlifting team. I want to coach weightlifting. I want to coach youth athletes, so I can start them young and bring them up, and progress them into adult lifters. And of course I wanted to work with anyone, adults, youth athletes, like who were into weightlifting. And so I've over so probably full-time, I started full-time coaching in 2018. That was when I could like finally leave the construction job and I didn't have to do this like back and forth. And it's just been steady progress ever since then. So it was, it's kind of went from like a pretty kind of scary time in my life, but also like it felt like free, and it's like, oh, okay, I have control over this. And now we're here in 2021, and yeah, things are going real well.
Are you glad you're not working behind a desk anymore or working
Oh man,
construction?
I can't even like think it, like to think of that is just, it's not me. I couldn't, I feel like I can be much more myself in the gym than I ever could have been in any office or anything like that.
It's
So
pretty cool to go from like, the journey you just kind of described from like, finding CrossFit in 2011, then finding kind of like the niche within that, this you can call it the sport or the applied, like the practicality of like the training methodology. But you found that like you really enjoyed like weightlifting. What was about it that you really liked so much? I know you mentioned that there was someone mentioned to you that like weightlifters make the best CrossFitters, and like example would be like Matt Fraser, and there's some other athletes that I think have kind of transitioned from weightlifting into CrossFit. Like what about it like got you so fired up that you liked so much about it, and like I would assume you still love about it?
yeah, for like the biggest thing for me is it makes me feel athletic, and that's just why I like to do it. And I trying to hold on to the glory years as long as possible, and it makes me feel like I can do that through weightlifting. And I just like the technical aspect of it, and I like the training. I like how they're, to me, like training for weightlifting is really applicable to like life, like an approach that you have to take. It's not linear. There's ups and downs, or times when you're just crushing it, and times when you're struggling. Um, and it's all about like just doing a little bit, do a little bit more, do a little bit more. Um, like in one of I just love this saying, little by little, a little becomes a lot. And that's kind of like, it's through strength training, and through kind of that structure strength training that like I realized, oh, I could apply this to other areas in my life and take that same approach where it's like, all right, I don't have to wake up tomorrow and have this huge thing accomplished, but over time I can work towards that, and little by little, it will come to fruition. So
Now, for
it's
everyone
cool.
that's listening, that like when they hear weightlifting, like it might not mean what it actually is. Like lifting weights is different than weightlifting or the sport of weightlifting. Can you kind of describe the difference there, just for anyone that's listening that might be like, oh yeah, I like to lift weights, but it's not just about lifting weights.
Yeah, this is a kind of, it can be a contentious like topic in the weightlifting world, because weightlifters, like they sort of get this like outsiders looking in are like, oh, weightlifters are elite because like they want to use the term weightlifting. um, but so when I'm referring to weightlifting, I'm talking about the snatch and the clean and jerk. So those are the movements that are contested in the sport of we'll say like Olympic style weightlifting. And even that, saying Olympic style weightlifting, with everything going on in weightlifting right now, weightlifting might not be in the Olympics in 2024. So there's a lot of craziness behind the scenes there. But with those movements, the snatch, you're taking a barbell from the ground and putting it overhead in one movement. And on the clean, you take the barbell from the ground and bring it to your shoulders. And then on the jerk, from your shoulders to overhead.
And so hold on. So the weightlifting might not be, I didn't hear about that. It might not be in the 2024, because there was like the US did, they had a couple of medals, right? In weightlifting this year. I mean, I thought CJ was gonna, contend for some medals, but I think he kind of some stuff happened. Yeah, he had not that good of a day, but that's it is what it is. It's what happens. But I mean, like I think everyone listening to this probably watched at least 5 minutes of the Olympics and saw some of the events. I mean, it's incredible to see those weightlifters and what they're doing. And I think it's I don't know what your opinion is, but like my opinion is like, if you're an outsider looking in and you don't really understand like how difficult that is or how much weight they're actually lifting, it's like it's freaking insane.
Right.
And just to be able to get to that like capacity is crazy. But I think that like
Really is.
why wouldn't weightlifting be in 2024 Olympics, you think? Or
So there's
maybe
a
not.
lot of behind the scenes. The international governing body of weightlifting is the International Weightlifting Federation, and it's run, so a lot of it's like board members and just people associated with it. It's kind of like what I guess would be maybe described as like the old guard of weightlifting. It's these like older like Eastern European countries, and some like Southeast Asian countries where they don't really view like performance enhancing drugs like we do here. Um, and so there's been since the 20, I want to say like since 2008, there have been samples coming back, like medals have been stripped from lifters who tested positive after the fact in 2008, in 2012, in 2016. So there's just been a huge amount of positive drug tests. And then in addition to that, the head of the IWF was this, I forget his name, but he was like super corrupt, would take money, basically like countries could pay to pass drug tests, or he would take like bribery to, ensure that somebody got, placed in a competition, stuff like really kind of shady stuff like that. And it was exposed in this big documentary like a year and a half ago.
Is that the Icarus documentary?
I forget what it is. It was like a German documentary that came out, and they looked into all this like this corruption and this guy, and they like laundered money. The International Weightlifting Federation did. It's a huge mess, like, and so like really just poor mismanagement. And it's, and it's almost like it's frustrating because it's like these people aren't even thinking about the future of the sport, because the International Olympic Committee has issued several warnings to the IWF, like, you got to clean up your sport, otherwise we're gonna kick you out of the Olympics. And so from the 2016 Olympics to this year's Olympics, I think weightlifting lost like over 100 spots or something like that, and they're going to reduce that again in 2024, or maybe even kick weightlifting out of the Olympics, and they could possibly bring it back in like 2028 when it would be in Los Angeles. But it's just a really unfortunate, series of events that, it's kind of like individuals just putting themselves above the weightlifting community, international weightlifting community. So it's pretty frustrating, but there are a lot of countries that have band together to try to push back against this. Recently there was a call by a number of countries to have the entire IWF board resign and replace them with new board members and president and vice president. So it's a little bit of a mess right now, but
see what happens. But I was totally unaware of all that stuff. That's actually interesting. I'm sure not a lot of people are aware of that situation going on. It sounds pretty unfortunate,
It's a bummer because we were actually at when we were in Tennessee on our vacation recently, we were at a restaurant and they had weightlifting on the TV, and I think it was like one of the lighter men's categories. And we were watching it, Katie and I were like, this is awesome, like that we actually get to see this on TV right now. This is so cool. And there was some people also watching it, super impressed, and we're kind of talking, like, because they show the weight in kilos, and most Americans don't know the conversion. So I'm like telling them, oh, like this is X amount and this person only weighs this much. So it's like pretty amazing that they're able to move weight like this. And
it's like 2.5 times, 3 times their body weight. That
right. You're not just going to go into a gym one day and do that. That's decades of practice. So it's really, I think people are pretty impressed with the sport, even if they don't know it. But yeah, I mean,
with like your, like, I think your story kind of and I think a lot of people that got involved in CrossFit specifically around the time you did, and then plus like everyone kind of getting involved in it as that kind of like turned up. Like in my opinion, I feel like weightlifting has been one of those sports that has grown in popularity as a result of the growth of CrossFit, because CrossFit kind of put more light and exposure on this, on this, those lifts. Cause like at the end of the day, before CrossFit, unbeknownst to my knowledge, outside of like competitive athletic training or sports specific training for like athletes in strength and conditioning facilities, you really weren't seeing the Olympic lifts trained or even utilized at any capacity for general population. Right. And so like, would you agree, or like, what are your thoughts on like how CrossFit has impacted like weightlifting and maybe vice versa?
Oh, it's like without a doubt the reason why weightlifting is so big in the United States right now. Because like CrossFit introduced everyone to the barbell.
Mhm.
Like whether you're doing Olympic lifts or you're deadlifting or you're benching, like it introduced people to this implement in the gym that you can use to. I mean, like you could train with just the barbell. Like there's so much that you could do with just the barbell itself. But without a doubt, like if CrossFit, it's the number one reason why USA weightlifting has grown to where it's at now, and it has the most like membership it's ever had, and it's certainly played a role in exposing people outside of the country as CrossFit continues to grow in South America and Europe. That even in those countries where Olympic weightlifting is a bit more probably well known by your average person, because it's bigger in those countries. It's really starting to make an impact. So that's why in the last couple of years, Team USA weightlifting has gotten really, really good, because we have some of these people coming over from CrossFit. I'm pretty sure on the ladies side, like 3 of the 4 of the Olympic athletes were former CrossFitters. At least like started, like that's how they got exposed to it. I think Maddie Rogers was fairly high level CrossFit athlete at the time. And then on the men's side, that would be, no one came from CrossFit on the men's side. They've all been lifelong weightlifters, or found it through other means like gymnastics or sports or something like that. But it's, if you look, like you could probably go to a national meet and ask everyone that's standing on the podium, where did you find weightlifting? If I would say like 80% of those people are probably going to say CrossFit.
That's incredible, like the carryover. And like you also mentioned, like the carryover to like the best weightlifters make best CrossFitters, but I know you've talked a lot about like how you just mentioned Maddie Rogers, like gymnasts really make great weightlifters, and there's like this carryover in these like skills to like from not just like your athletic skills, but like mobility and like awareness and coordination. Like, can you like, and this is like the part that I'm really excited to talk to you about, is like, can you talk a little bit about like just I guess the benefits and maybe the carryover that you've seen in like those sports, but like the benefits of like weightlifting and why people should do it, and maybe the people that are listening that are like, they come in, they do a CrossFit class and they do power cleans and they're learning how to do some of those basic Olympic lifts. Like, what are the benefits of incorporating that, or at least practicing and learning those skills, and how that might carry over or translate into like everyday life, or like you've talked about, how it translates into like other athletic endeavors?
Right. I think like in general, just like strength training, like doing the Olympic lifts, it just can come with this sort of like empowers you. As you get stronger and as you start to get noticeably stronger, there's a certain confidence that comes with that, and it helps to build your self-esteem. And I think that's like a really great outcome of strength training and doing Olympic lifting in general. And then it's a skill based movement. So you're learning skills, you're learning how to move the barbell properly. And, you know, say someone that may struggle with it in CrossFit, spending one time a week at least dedicated to the skill of it, or maybe after class, you just taking the barbell and spending 10 minutes working with an empty bar. It's just like if somebody wanted to learn double unders, you know, we tell people they want to learn double unders, do double unders every day, you know, like, and maybe you don't have to use the bar every day, or you can use a PVC pipe or something like that, but it's a skill that you're learning. And so the better you are at that skill, the more able you can apply that as the weights increase. And, you know, so that's where I think, thinking of it as more of weightlifting being more of like a skill based, you know, like movement versus we're trying to just lift the most weight as possible. You know, taking that approach is great for a CrossFitter to just learn the technique before you start adding the weights on. It gets really hard to unlearn bad technique.
So with anything, golf swing.
Yeah.
I always
Everything,
compare
yeah.
the golf swing to like the Olympic lifts. It's like, you got to slow down to speed up. It's not about,
Right.
it's not Happy Gilmore, right? You're not just
Right.
running up to it and slamming it, because it's way more technical. Like you talked about, technical proficiency that's required and the coordination to be successful in the lift. And then what I think is really cool, and I don't know how many people know this, is like you set out a goal of, and you were kind of alluding to it earlier about, you know, getting some of these kids involved in weightlifting and developing them, and them being able to kind of take that and carry it over to adulthood, but also, you know, taking and helping inspire these athletes to take up the sport of weightlifting. And you have just come back recently from nationals and have brought some girls, you know, on the team there. And, you know, I'll let you talk about them and kind of give them praise, but it's been pretty incredible to see the progress overall. You know, it would be great for you to kind of talk about the kids that are in the program, your program, the Barbell Club right now, and what you've seen.
Yeah. I mean, just like from our youth to our adults, it's just a great, awesome group of people. They're super hardworking, and they're just like dedicated. And, you know, it's really great to like, I just love to see the progress that people are making. And over the last few years, we've had a lot of success being able to take both youth and adults to national level meets. We haven't, just with COVID, it kind of ruined our plans. But we've had, you know, a number of adults qualify for Masters Nationals. And then on the youth side, every year we've brought at least two, you know, starting in 2019, we had three girls go in 2019. We had three in 2020, which is kind of like an online sort of situation. We didn't go anywhere. And then this past year, two girls went, and it was like really, really successful trip. We had our youngest lifter, she went 6 for 6. It was her first national meet, in-person meet ever, and she just looked really poised, and she just did phenomenal. And then followed it up with our Riley Roloff, who's been at the gym for like 10 years. And
Yeah,
she
2013. Since that we sat our kids class, it was like her and
it's like eight
Megan.
years she's been in the gym.
About it, I think she started doing kids classes after Megan, her older sister, did, but it wasn't that long after. So maybe 2013, 2014, maybe.
Yeah,
She was a little peanut. She was like, I don't even know, 3.5 feet tall. And then one day I walk in the gym and she's like as tall as me. It was the craziest thing. I'm like, who are you?
Strong, super strong. And she won a national championship in the 14 to 15-year-olds. She's a 76 kilo weightlifter, and she won that category for her age group, and best lifter in the country.
That's incredible.
So just like, you know, really phenomenal. And her, you know, her progress. It's a lot of these, you know, like kids, they've like sort of, dabbled in other sports and stuff like that. And then they start weightlifting. And when they realize that it can be both, something that you can do, for just come in the gym for some stress relief and, to kind of get away from, maybe some of the anxieties of school and home. And then, they can also use it as a sport. So like it's also a sport. We compete in weightlifting, so it can become a sport. They can play, softball in the summer, and then in the fall they're doing weightlifting, and not only is it beneficial, like just like for them personally, for their mind, their body, but it also will help them with their other sports because now they're stronger, and they're like I doubt many kids their age are in the gym, strength training and doing, power movements like snatch, clean, and jerk. So that's only going to help them be more athletic.
I'll tell you one thing. I wish that I did that when I was a kid.
Right. I think that's like if you polled every adult at the gym, like that percentage would be super high. Like, oh man, why didn't we have like, I can't count the number of times someone was like, why didn't we have this when I was growing up? Or man, if I started this 20 years earlier. It's like, yeah, we all we all wish that was the case.
I know. It's so funny, but it's true though, because you see the benefits now as like an adult, and you understand how hard it is. And like you mentioned, it's really hard to relearn or unteach or reteach, like, poor movement or learning anything. You kind of like you're scoring that line over and over again. If you're off track, it's a lot harder to kind of get back on track, and it takes more like concentrated reps to get better at it. And it's so great to hear these kids getting involved in this and doing the stuff. If they, anyone that's listening, if like they wanted to get involved in the barbell club, or if they wanted to get their kids involved in like working in like prototype strength or in like the barbell club, like how do they go about doing that? What's that process like look like?
Yeah, well, they can reach out to me. They can, if it's a member of the gym, come talk to me. If it's, somebody outside of the gym, send me an email, Joe at prototypetraining.com, Joe at prototypetraining.com. And, or we're on Instagram, Prototype Barbell Club. You can send me a message there too. And then we sort of just have a talk there, like, if it's a youth lifter, like what are they looking for? Is weightlifting going to be the right thing for them? Or, we have a strength and conditioning program, for athletes. We have a fundamentals program for kids to learn the basics of, just strength training. And that's literally, like they got to learn how to use their bodies before they can go and take a barbell and manipulate that. So we kind of start there and see what would be a good fit. And then I take everyone who joins, every youth athlete who joins, and it depends with the adults what their experience is, because they might have been exposed to snatch and clean and jerk in CrossFit classes. But with youth athletes, we work together for one-on-one sessions so that I can really just take the time to teach them all the positions of weightlifting, because that's really, sport comes down to it. If you don't know the positions, if you can't get your body in the right positions, you're not going to move well. You're going to have a bad time. So it's really important to set that like good foundation, like to get them understanding, so that when they come to class and I use these certain, terms and stuff like that, they catch on to it, versus just throwing them to the wolves and feel like good luck.
I know there's limited spots. There's not many, the barbell,
we got a packed house.
The youth kids especially, it's getting busy, man. So
it really is.
Hats off to you for growing that. That's so special and fantastic.
Thanks. I mean, I'm hoping. It's been the local meets. It's been slow getting those back. With COVID, I don't know if some of the places that used to hold multiple meets a year are no longer doing it, and so we're trying to just figure that out, because I want to get these kids to a meet and see what it's like, because it's pretty fun, like it can be intimidating, but you go with your group and you have like the team there with you, and then you go. Anytime somebody competes for the first time, we're going to try to make that as accessible as possible. They'll go 6 for 6 and have a good time, and get kind of the understanding of the feel of a weightlifting meet. And usually that gets them pretty pumped to come back, for more. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm hooked. So I've just been dying and talking to some folks. I'm like, what's the deal? Like, are there going to be any meets? And then maybe in the future we'll have one at Prototype. I feel like that's where it's looking like it's heading. So I just need the organization around that is, there's a lot involved in it. We need like a lot of people. We need referees, and they need to be certified through USA Weightlifting. So there's a lot there, but I think like if nothing materializes, in 2022, like then that's gonna be the big thing. Trying to figure out how we can get a meet going at the gym.
Make it happen, man. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I want to get into this Spitfire round here. Get you
a
little Spitfire. So I always say I want to change these questions, but I just never get around to doing it. So first is favorite movie of all time, favorite TV show of all time, and what are you currently binge watching?
Oh man, favorite movie. This is tough. Like it's probably Lord of the Rings, like that trilogy. I just love that. I'm huge like Star Wars. I love Star Wars, but just Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna go with
One
that.
ring to rule them all.
Exactly. It's just a great epic journey and I don't know, I love it. TV show, man, that's tough. I don't watch a ton of TV. My TV would be like, I watch a lot of YouTube. So like any person like making things with wood, with metal, something like, I just like to learn how they do that so that I can like do that at home. I love doing that stuff, in my spare time. So that's like my TV. And what have we've been binge watching? Clearly I'm not paying too much attention. Oh, lately it's been the movies that made us. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just watched the Forrest Gump one last night, and that was pretty awesome. So
I'm right there with you. All I do is I like YouTube. I'm the same thing. I love learning how to do stuff and making the movies that made us, and like it's so fascinating with all the stuff you don't like know behind the scenes, how quick they got together. If you only watch a couple of those, like we've done that. Ones is awesome.
We've done the whole awesome series. Yeah,
they're so cool. They're great. So if you're listening, watch that on Netflix.
Yes, highly recommended.
Favorite musician or band of all time, and favorite song?
Of all time, it's Rage Against the Machine.
Nice.
They've just been a huge influence, really influenced to kind of, I say where I am today. And my favorite song of all time, that's hard. That's like a really hard one to nail down. I like music so much that I don't think there's any one particular song. I would say that like usually when I'm listening to music, it's like I have like that maybe like favorite song that or a couple songs that I've been into, and I listen to them for a couple months, and then I find something new and it's like on rotation, So like I don't really have a favorite song, but Rage Against the Machine is definitely far and away a favorite band of all time.
That's a good choice. And then favorite hobby outside of like working out and like, weightlifting and doing what you do?
I just like making stuff, building, renovating, anything where I can like use my hands and use some tools. And I love the feeling of like stepping back and just like looking at your work and being like, I did that. And there's a lot of pride that comes with that. So
like that thing behind you?
Yeah, this is see right here. This is where can I go here? This is New Hampshire and then Vermont. I made that like a couple years ago. It's like a huge thing. Katie wants me to make this like massive. I made a United States for somebody, and she wants me to do that and put it up here, but it's like very time consuming. So I don't know, maybe someday. She took over my workshop in the basement. So ever since COVID, it's been her weightlifting area. So I got to build her a new area, and maybe I'll get that someday.
Maybe you'll get your workstation back. Who knows?
Yeah.
But for now, you're just going to watch the YouTube videos and just, cross your fingers that you get time to do it.
That's right.
Well, Joe, I appreciate you being on, man. It was awesome to, I know a lot of this stuff, but for you to share kind of like your journey, also kind of like your passion around weightlifting. It's clear that this is like super important to you and a big passion of yours. And also kind of like I said, the journey you've kind of been on over the last few years and how you got involved, and kind of now where you're at today. And so I appreciate you being on and sharing
Dude,
this with everyone.
I appreciate this. This is awesome. And, to everyone that, that I get to coach and work with, like, I appreciate you so much. It's amazing that this is my job and I get to coach weightlifting and I get to help people become better versions of themselves. And it means the world to me. And I just love everyone that I get to work with, and I appreciate you guys, and just love the, Prototype community. It's really one of a kind. Sweet to be a part of it.
Awesome, man. And everyone listening, again, every Monday we put out a new community conversation to get your week started. So make sure you tune in, check us out on YouTube, also on all major streaming platforms such as Spotify. And again, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Take care, Mike.